And welcome to ZP Productions. I'm Richard, and today I'll be doing the initial review of this camera. This is the EOS R from Canon, and this is the 2870 f2.L lens. EOS R is actually Canon's mirrorless system. It's not really new. It is 1 year old by now. There's also the younger brother of this camera, the EOS RP, which is a budget version of this. At the point of this review, this camera costs about 2,000 USD, the same as the A7 III. And in Singapore, where I reside, this camera is about 2.9K SGD. So, first thing, as I said, this is the initial review. Why do I even bother writing a review for this camera, which is something I don't use, because if you have followed me, I use the GFX 100, a fantastic camera of its own. Why do I want to try a full frame, and especially a EOS R? Now, if you have followed my blog, okay, I didn't write it, should I say, I didn't actually show you on YouTube. Previously, I actually reviewed the Nikon Z6 with the 35 and 51.8. I thought that the system overall was good. The Nikon Z6 had some focusing issues which I felt was a little slow, but if not, the general system was good. It has IBs, it's sharp, it felt good, and you know, the cuts they use is really fast. General performance wise, no issues. But the EOS R was something I always wanted to test because I'm a portrait photographer. And using the GFX, the GFX had great lenses, no doubt. But every single lens was relatively slow. f2.8, f4, and only the 110, which is the 87mm, 89mm equivalent, was f2. Everything was slow. Now, slow has a disadvantage in the real world. It actually prevents me from stopping action at times if the daylight wasn't bright enough. Of course, you know, there's also less bokeh. And bokeh is useful as a technique to do separation. It also gives a bit of magical, a bit of softness to the shots, which the Asian style portraits use a lot. So of course, I was looking at many systems. There is a Sony with the Sigma cameras, you know, but it creates monstrous looking things. And then there is the EOS R with, of course, the 2870 f2, the 51.2, and the 85 1.2. So of course the EOS R really interests me a lot. So I went to SLR, I talked to Lawrence from SLR Revolution, and he managed to loan me the EOS R and the 85 1.2. And my first impression of the camera when I first picked it up, so this camera with the 85 1.2, not the 2870, when I first picked up, ergonomically it's great. This grip is fantastic, look at me. I'm holding, this is a 2 kg setup because this lens is like 1.4 kg. The body is about 660 grams. A 2 kg setup, and I'm holding it relatively easy, with confidence. I couldn't say the same thing if this was a A7 III, and even a Nikon Z6 didn't feel as good. So, firstly, the grip was great, right? No hanging pinkies. The pinkies go right onto the camera. The next thing, of course, it's very physical. You can see the single cut slot. Now, single cut slot is a very debatable affair. I would say it's something that I don't normally need because I do mainly portraiture, and portraiture, other than action portraiture, standard portraiture normally can be really short. So I don't really miss the dual cut slots. The dual cut slot, for me, I always use it mainly only when I do events or when I do baby photo shoots, because the chance of them cooperating with me again is really low, and in the events, the chance of you capturing the same moment is really low. So backup is always good. But that being said, through my many years of photography, nearly 10 years now, I only had 2 SD card failures, and the failures are not sudden. They are like slow failures. The cards start having problems writing, the cards start having problems reading, and during then, I would just take all the images out slowly and then change the card. So I rarely had a drastic failure in the middle of a shoot. So maybe to me, single cut, dual cut, not too important. If you're a professional, maybe it does. Then when I actually first operate the camera, coming from Fuji, coming from Nikon, they had terrible touch screens. Should I say the touch only works for a few things. The Nikon is better than the Fuji, but not that great either, because you can only touch very limited things. Now Canon is fantastic. You could touch almost everything, from the Q menu to the inner menu to the outer menu. Every single thing is touch enabled. So it's fast, it's quick, it felt like using a handphone that I'm used to, and it works fantastic. So touch, we talk about touch. Then Canon came out with this finicky little, what they call as a touch bar or whatever they call it. Now this touch bar sucks. There's two ways to use it. You can lock it and do a press, unlock and use, or use it direct. The first way, which is to unlock and use, is slow. Every setting that I put there was pointless because it's so slow that I can just use the touchscreen and do it. Now the moment I unlock it, it started going crazy. If let's say you didn't have a press to hold to unlock, it will start changing settings now and then. I tried mapping the AF, which was the best thing you can map on the touch bar probably to me. It just doesn't work. It keeps changing me between IAF, tracking, and then suddenly dropping down to single point, then dropping down to multi-point. I don't know what this is doing. The touch bar is terrible. So I just disable it anyway. Okay, then something notable is the EVF. The EVF is good. Now I'm coming from a GFX 100, which has a great EVF, but this EVF on the Canon EOS R is actually good. I may actually say is better than the GFX at times, because the GFX EVF is sharp, it is high res, and it's huge. Now, sometimes my eyes get lost in the EVF. The 0.85 is fantastic, but it's a little too big. And this 0.7 plus on the Canon is great. The EVF is sharp, it's fast, and I can see the whole screen without any distortion. In fact, I think Canon actually did quite a good job in terms of optics within the EVF, because the EVF really looks sharp and crisp. And most importantly, the EVF looks like the back screen in terms of color. They obviously probably spent some time calibrating it. So I don't have different images when I look in the EVF and the back screen. Recently, I tried the Nikon, and the Nikon do show some of these issues. Okay, so continuing on the EOS R. The EOS R, of course, has a lot of buttons. Everything here can be customized to a certain extent. It also has a top screen, similar to the GFX 50, the Fuji X-H1, but this top screen isn't as useful because when you off it, for some reason, let me let you see. Let's see if we can focus. For some reason, it only shows me the mode when I off it. I do not know why. Why can't it show me the battery? Because that's the most important thing. When I off the camera, I want to know whether I have enough battery so I can continue shooting. But for some reason, it only shows the mode. Totally useless. But you on it, it's useful because it shows every other information that you need. Other than that, off it, useless. Now, the next thing, let me carry on with this, is something that was very interesting. When I first picked up the camera, I took it off the lens cover. I saw this. Now, this is actually really, really useful. We as photographers know that exposed sensor equal to dust on camera. And we cannot prevent ourselves from changing lenses unless you are a zoom user. If you are a prime user, you will always change lens in the field to get the shot you want. That introduces tons and tons of dust on the sensor itself. Yes, people say the shutter is more fragile, but I'm not going to touch my sensor, or I'm not even going to touch my shutter. In fact, I have never touched my sensor before. So having a shutter that is closed to prevent dust, I felt was invaluable, and this is a very small touch to improve the overall experience of using the EOS R, because it reduces dust on the camera, which is something that you cannot prevent, unlike touching the sensor, which obviously just don't put your finger in there. Okay, so that's pretty much it on the body. Other than that, there was nothing too great, nothing too good. It has no IBIS. I think the biggest downside of this camera is no IBIS. No IBIS is so yesteryear. No IBIS is so, I don't know, 2016 or 2017. The only other maker that doesn't want to put the IBs in their main camera is like Fujifilm with their XT series. For some reason, they don't want to put the IBs inside. Maybe the body is too small, they can't. But the EOS R isn't small in any way. It's actually quite a chunky body. Probably smaller than some, but still a chunky body. This is not the RP. So I don't understand why they didn't go the extra mile. Even putting an average IS sensor is great, because the whole point of IS is not to shoot at 1/5 of a shutter. The whole point of IS is to shoot at normal shutter and always obtain a sharp image. And this is something I appreciate a lot in the GFX 100. So, without IBs, let's get it out of the way. There's no IBs to talk about. And if you notice, so far the lenses I talk about, the RF, are all primes or zooms. The 2870, the 85-1.2, the 50-1.2. I don't have the luxury to enjoy IS, which is on all of their Trinity zooms, which recently just came out. 15 to 35 IS, 24 to 70 IS, and the upcoming 70 to 200 IS. So these three have IS, the rest doesn't have. The 24-105 also has IS, make it 4 IS lenses. Oh wait, the 35-1.8 also has IS. 5 IS lenses, but for some reason, all the lens I like, or all the lens I'm interested in, have no IS. Which, now we're talking about lens, it goes down to why I'm really excited of the EOS R, which is the lens. As I said, what I mounted here is the 2870. This is phenomenal for a lens. 2870 f2, unimaginable. Firstly, this is not the first f2 zoom. The first f2 zoom goes to Sigma 24 to 35. Now 24 to 35 is pathetic of a zoom because that is less than 1.5. No, that's about 1.7 times. Totally not much zoom to it. But this is a 28 to 70. There is more than 2 times of zoom on a lens with f2 aperture. But having an f2 aperture and zoom isn't a great thing. So how does it perform optically? Fantastic. I tried it out. It is really close to premium primes. All the 35 1.4, 50 1.4, all of them wide open versus this lens wide open. It's really similar. This lens may be a touch hazy when it comes to heavy contrast, but if not, in terms of sharpness, in terms of quality, in terms of edge sharpness, the most impressive part, edge sharpness in the zoom, is fantastic. It could easily par most fast primes. So this lens itself, this 2870 f2, can almost replace all primes within the range as long as you can live with f2 and you can live with holding 4 primes on your hand, because this lens weighs 1.4 kg and 1.8 or f2 primes will also weigh 1.4 kg. So why would people want to pay maybe 3-4 times the price of a 1.8 lens and carrying the same weight all every single time? Is because of you can't always change your lens. And for wedding photographers, event photographers, or if you travel in situations such as deserts, such as the beach, such as in snow, you have no options to change lens, and this lens can do everything with a f2 aperture. It's phenomenal. In fact, if you ask me, if I was to travel, carrying this camera and this lens could probably perform everything I need to do, from street photography, landscape photography, and even portraitures. 70 f2 will give you the bokeh and separations you need, and this lens is sharp enough, to just give you the pop. That is very useful. Now, the RF glass is what makes this Canon system special. So what I have here is 2870, and next I'll show you. This is a monster lens again. This is the 85 1.2. This is probably one of the sharpest 85mm you can get in the market. I can safely say this thing, wait a moment. This thing can fight the Otus in terms of sharpness. This thing may beat the Otus in terms of CA. And overall, its performance with AF is great. You could easily shoot moving subjects with this. Probably not with the Otus. You could probably shoot running subjects with this, as long as it's not running towards you, running diagonally sideways. You can track with this lens. Its AF is phenomenal. It is very accurate. It is sharp, corner to corner, with almost no aberrations. Now, you may think that maybe because this is my first full frame set, but this is the GFX 110 f2. This lens is phenomenal. You can actually go to Jim Kayson's site, check it out. It has one of the best CA control. It probably even beats the Otus at times. Now, I tried and compared both of these lenses. They perform very similar in terms of aberrations, but this guy is a 1.2, this guy is f2. Now, once you compute equivalence, this guy is about 1.6. Now, this is still about 0.6 faster, gives you even more bokeh, more shutter speed, and it is as sharp and low aberration as a 110 f2. I think this speaks a lot about this lens. But look at the size. Now, if I put together, ooh, look at this. This guy weighs slightly more, I believe slightly more than this guy, and it is fat. It comes with an 82mm filter thread. Canon just kinda threw the advantage of size out of the water. All of their mirrorless are insanely heavy in terms of the lens weight. The only thing light in the 28 in the whole EOS R is two lenses, the 35mm 1.8, which is a relatively budget lens on the EOS R. It is small, it is light, it's compact, it has IS, fantastic lens. Just that Canon didn't put too much optical performance in it. It trails the modern 35 just a little bit, but it has IS, so maybe that makes up for it. The other lens that is actually small and has the advantage of being mirrorless is the 7200. The 7200 is insane. It looks like this lens, but it's 7200. It weighs like this lens. It weighs, I remember, 1.2 kg, 1.1 kg. Never heard of a 7200 at f2.8 that weighs that much. Everything weighs 1 pound heavier. And so far, those who have managed to get their hands on it say it is optically perfect. I'm actually looking forward to testing it. Maybe I'll borrow it and test. The only issue is that it extends and contracts, but hey, the problem is transportation, not usage. So contracting, as long as it extends and contracts and doesn't get dust in, I think it's fine. But most importantly, it's the size of this lens, so you can keep it easily, and it's a full 1 pound lighter than its predecessor, making it a really, really light lens. 1.2 kg, you can't beat it in weight. So overall, what do I have to say about the EOS R? As a camera, I think this camera is great. No, wait, I should reverse myself a bit. This camera is good, but not great. Yeah, that's pretty. If you say great, I think the A7 III is greater. Yes, everything the EOS and IBIS, But, what makes EOS R great is not the camera, or should I say this whole system. It's the lenses. The camera is a way to just move the lens, and every single part of this EOS RF lens are great. Most of them, I think almost all of them, are sharper than its predecessor. They perform better, and they are one of a kind. The 2870 f2, one of a kind. The 85 1.2, one of a kind. The 50 1.2, one of a kind. 1535, that is 1 mm more than its predecessor in terms of range. The 2470, it has IS, not really found in most modern lenses. But then again, you have IBIS, so maybe IS is not so important. And the 7200, oh, that's a small trash can of a zoom lens. So the RF really, or should I say, Canon really is trying to experiment what they can do with the RF mount. And I think the lenses are what make this system so special, and probably what makes this system a success in the future. Among all the systems, I have to say that, ignoring the GFX, I have to say that the EOS R has the most potential, especially because the RF lenses that so far Canon committed is just phenomenal. Fantastic, great, sharp, and really works one of a kind. 2870 f2, where can you get, right? Okay, so much for the talking. This is an initial review. Carry on watching this video. I will actually play about 20 pictures or maybe 15 pictures after this video itself. Look through, appreciate the EOS R. I hope to see you next time. If you like my video, do press like and subscribe. See you next time, and I will give you a full review of every single little thing in the EOS R. And of course, I still owe the review of the GFX 100. And maybe I will also do the review of the EM1X. That is a really, really rare Micro Four Third, and I love it. No, I own a full frame, I own a medium format, I own a Micro Four Thirds. But I can tell you that Micro Four Third is just fantastic for the purpose of doing jobs. See you next time, and enjoy.